I love doggos so much, and I have a feeling that you do as well. That's why I'm very excited to partner up with Embark. They are a dog DNA testing kit, and they are amazing. I've done it on both of my pups. Top shelf. Love what they do. So go to embarkvet.com, and this will get you free shipping and save $60 with this promo code RAY, R-A-Y. So visit embarkvet.com to get free shipping and save $60 with the promo code RAY. Test your doggos, find out so much about them.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches.
Urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Are you crime curious? iHeartPodcasts has gathered the best true crime all in one podcast feed. iHeart True Crime Plus. It's packed with podcasts about unsolved murders, missing persons, organized crime, and more. So there's always something good to binge and share. iHeart True Crime Plus subscribers also enjoy ad-free listening, early access to select episodes, and exclusive bonus content. Subscribe to iHeart True Crime Plus today, exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. What's up, team? Thank you for downloading this podcast and putting it in your ear holes because there are a lot of things you could be doing right now, but you're hanging out with me because you care about independent music and you care about the people who create it, put it out, document it in whatever fashion. Because, dude, this show has existed for over 8 years and I've had hundreds and hundreds of conversations. And I just love being able to bring them to you because this is an audio zine. That's what we're doing here. And the audio zine's guest today is Chase Mason. He is the vocalist of Gatecreeper, who I will fully admit was always like, yeah, Gatecreeper's cool. Their most recent release that came out on Closed Casket Activities is an unbelievable piece of music. I am a full Gatecreeper convert now. And I admit this at the onset of the discussion with Chase that I became a fan of his band because I was following him on Instagram. And I loved his vibe and just really gravitated towards him. Many of my friends or mutual friends are with him. And I just always was like, I appreciate his vibe. I just like it. And once his publicist hit me up about this, I'm like, let's do this. And Chase and I had a great conversation. So that's what we're going to bring you in a moment. But you can email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I've been noticing a lot of new recent listeners or, the past couple episodes have spiked, and I appreciate that. So if you're new around here, welcome. You take a seat over there and enjoy the conversations. And like I said, you can always email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. If you are new and you have not reviewed this show on Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate that. It does a lot in the weird algorithm that is the Apple Podcast charts. I don't really care about the charts, but I just want people to be able to find this show on a regular basis that should know about the show. So if you would do that, that would be awesome. And the final thing, you need to be listening to the Punk Rock MBA podcast. It is hosted by my good friend, Finn McKenty, who has been a previous guest on this show multiple times. He's just a really smart dude. Takes the whole DIY business principles that we learn in booking shows and printing shirts and all of that hustle and applies that to interviews. He has an amazing YouTube channel as well. But the podcast is really, really cool because he brings on people who might not have an immediate connection to DIY, but when you boil down to it, they absolutely do. And so some of his recent guests, like he had the CEO of Liquid Death Water, which I know that some of you are familiar with. And then he also has a lot of, sort of like emo SoundCloud rapper guys who, frankly, I don't pay attention to whatsoever. But when Finn has them on the show, I listen to the interviews and I'm like, wow, dude, I learned a lot. Here's this person who has like over 5 million followers, like Little Xan. I don't know who Little Xan is, and maybe I'm just completely mispronouncing his name. But anyways, what you need to do is listen to his podcast. I wholeheartedly endorse it. And you just need to, and you'll become a smarter person because of it. So that's what we got. Let's talk to Chase.
I was aware of Gatecreeper and kind of, you in general, but it was weird because it was like, I don't even know what motivated me to start following you on like Instagram. And I know this is like a weird thing, like an adult saying this to an adult. It was like, I just started following you because and this is going to, again, sound strange, but like, I liked your vibe where it was like, like your band's cool, but like, I just liked what you were putting out there. And and then retroactively, I got into Gatecreeper, where it's like, I knew the band, but I just didn't dive into it. And it's really interesting because I think that is kind of an unintended influence of, obviously social media and the way that people share their lives, where there are people that probably do not like your band, but like you or like what you're doing on social media. Like, is that a weird thing to kind of I guess like not reconcile in your head, but kind of think about in those terms?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do go hand in hand, and they're also, I think, always going to be linked together. And for the most part, if somebody likes you, they'll probably like your band.
Sure.
But it could go either way. Someone, could like you, but they don't care. They don't like your band. They maybe hate your band. I think maybe that would be the longest or the widest stretch if someone liked you, but then they hated your band. But maybe they like you and they don't really care about your band, or, maybe they like your band and they think that you suck personally. I don't know. I'm sure that happens too. Mm-hmm. But, in a perfect world, and maybe if you're not, doing anything to piss people off or rub people the wrong way, then if, they like you, then hopefully they'll like what you do.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is interesting too, because I'm sure, you're well aware of the, good dude, bad band scenario. I mean, sure. But I think it really does. The intimacy and the touch that people can have on people like yourself, and then obviously celebrities and sports stars and stuff like that, just to feel more connected and be like, oh yeah, they're actually a real human, as long as they're obviously sharing a version of themselves that makes them illustrates them as such. But when like obviously what you do is you're not. I mean, you're promoting your band, but you're not like shameless about it. You're not like, hey, I gotta post at 4:00 today because I gotta do this thing. It's just like, oh no, well, we have a new record out, and I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it, at least for myself, I try to maintain self-awareness, in everything, and not be delusional or like pretend to do anything. Like, yeah, I'm totally okay with promoting my own band or something that I'm doing, but I'm not going to pretend like that's not what I'm doing, Mm-hmm. And I also try not to do the kind of like the false humility thing that always kind of annoys me or rubs me the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody say, we just put out a new record and it's like, hey guys, I guess, here's this record and, I think that it's pretty good. Like, hopefully you guys will like it too. I think that people are kind of scared to, or it's looked down upon because they think that you seem like overconfident or cocky. If you're just like, hey, just put out this record. It's really cool. Check it out. Right. I think a lot of things are veiled in this like false humility where people are just almost ashamed or because of social media kind of scared to just be proud of what they do.
Sure.
But I've tried to just put it all out there like, hey, just put out this record. I think it's sick. Hopefully, listen to it.
Right. Yeah. And I felt weird kind of like leading the conversation with this, but I think it's something that, whatever, I'm a 40-year-old adult, you're, in your early 30s. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just interesting to be able to, we have grown up in a music world where, the internet was in its infancy, and then trying to understand now how we get attracted to art and people that put out, music or whatever it is that we support, and then how that reckons with social media. I just find it fascinating. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that our generation, I'm probably on, if you consider us still, even though you're older than me, still in the same generation, I'm probably the end of, the younger part of the generation where I still remember growing up without having the internet, or at least it not being how it is today. Mm-hmm. I was a teenager when kind of the internet became a real household thing. At least one house and one computer in the house, somebody had the internet or like dial up. But I remember it before that. I can't say that I was really playing music or involved in like music industry or whatever that during that time, but I remember life before everything was on the internet,
Yeah, right. Yeah, you remember the analog nature of the world.
Yeah, but there's just people that are just a few years younger than me that, that's all that they ever really knew. They've really known.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, the dawn of the MySpace era. It's like, that was the first time in which music was so readily accessible where you didn't have to go on, LimeWire and Napster or whatever. It's like, yeah, I agree with you. From what I can tell, you were born and raised in Mesa, Arizona, correct?
Correct.
And Arizona is such a weird place, especially for, obviously it exists in the middle of the desert, but it's a huge city spread across so many different, suburbs of Glendale and Scottsdale and everything, every dale you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
What was your, I guess, upbringing, like, did you find Arizona, weird as you kind of started to, travel and see a little bit more of the world, or, do you hold a fondness for it? Because, obviously you do, you're still there in some capacity.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're somewhat familiar with Arizona. There's like, Phoenix, where I actually live in the city of Phoenix now, but there's all this surrounding cities or suburbs kind of, that are considered Phoenix still, like the Phoenix metropolitan area. Mm-hmm. They have their own city, and, your address might be Scottsdale or Mesa or whatever. But to simplify things, I would, even before I lived in actual Phoenix City, and I lived in Tempe for most of my adult life, if someone outside of Arizona asked me where I lived, I would say Phoenix just because it's easier. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in Mesa, which is like a suburb of Phoenix. And to answer your question, once I started traveling around, I definitely realized how weird it is, or at least kind of an interesting sort of bubble that I lived in. Because in Mesa in particular, in the area of Mesa where I grew up, it's very heavily Mormon populated, and my family is Mormon. So I thought that was normal, I thought that it was like that everywhere. I was like, oh yeah, there's this many Mormon people everywhere in every city or every state. But then once I started traveling or meeting people outside of the state or that lived on the East Coast, they didn't even know what a Mormon person was.
Yeah, let alone LDS, where it's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but where I grew up, that was like the LDS church is like pretty much in the majority, and I would say it's on par with most places in Utah, maybe not more. For whatever reason, there's kind of like a settlement or whatever you'd call it in Mesa. So that's definitely something that I've found weird or unique about where I grew up, and the circumstances that I grew up in, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was such a large contingent of Mormonism and LDS in Arizona. I mean, most people presume or can make the connection between Utah and that, but I didn't know there was such a prevalence there.
Yeah, Mesa in particular. I mean, all over, but Mesa in particular is kind of known for that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And, because you were brought up in a religious household, when was the first time that you, I guess, started to like push against that or question that and start to, kind of reckon with, what faith meant to you because you were, so immersed in it?
I was very young. I kind of tell this story pretty often when discussing how I was raised, but I was probably like 5 years old when I told my parents I didn't want to be Mormon because they wouldn't let me go to a kid in the neighborhood's birthday party on Sunday. They said, you can't go. They had this sit down talk of, well, this is what our family does. Our family's Mormon and we don't do things like that on Sunday. And I was just like, all right, well, I want to go to the birthday party, so I don't want to be Mormon.
Right. Simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah. My 5-year-old brain, that made sense. And
of course,
it just kind of snowballed from there. I would say it's all downhill from there. It kind of morphed into a more defiant attitude. Especially as early teens, when I started getting into punk and skateboarding and all that, it kind of all rolled into like a defiant or anti-authority sort of thing, where it's like,
sure.
Whether it's against the Mormon church and their beliefs of like, I've been told not to do this, in my brain, that's something that's fun. And I probably should do exactly what I've been told not to do, and that definitely got me in a lot of trouble. But in short, I was very young when I decided that the Mormon church wasn't for me. So I wouldn't even consider myself to be like ex-Mormon,
Right. You never bought in the first place. Sure.
Yeah. Like I was baptized. You get baptized when in a church when you're 8 years old. So like not when you're a baby. But again, it's not really something I had a choice in. But yeah, I wouldn't refer to myself as ex-Mormon really because I was never in, like you said.
Yeah, that makes sense. And are you an only child, or do you have brothers and sisters?
No, I have three siblings. There's 4 kids total.
Okay, and where do you sit on the spectrum?
I'm the second oldest, so I'm the older middle child. I have one older sibling and 2 younger siblings.
Got it. And what did your siblings kind of, I guess, follow along in your path, or were you the proverbial black sheep as you started to, kind of step out and, do your own thing?
I was definitely the black sheep. Definitely my older brother was, the classic hard to follow older sibling,
Yeah, sure.
And then I think my little brother was, honestly, I think that after watching me get into all kinds of trouble and stuff, I think he kind of got scared straight by just watching me, so I'm definitely the black sheep.
Got it. And what did your parents do for a living? Like, I guess why Arizona kind of in the first place? That they, always lived there?
Yeah. So both of my parents grew up in Mesa as well.
Okay.
And my dad's family, they were, his dad was a orthodontist. And so my dad is an orthodontic technician.
Okay.
He makes retainers and other like appliances for the mouth, like mostly like pre braces or post braces.
Okay.
Because now my uncle, my dad's brother, is an orthodontist. So he works for him. So it's like a second generation practice, I guess.
Got it.
And he also was a seminary teacher. So again, like at LDS, the Mormon church, they have kind of like, if you're not familiar with seminary, it's kind of like Bible study, I guess. But it's actual like high school level like class that you'd go to every day, just like you would like a math class in high school. So my dad taught seminary from when I was a little kid until I think, I was out of the house. So, he probably did it for 15 years or something.
Right. That's yeah. So like you should have been in the teeth business, I guess.
Yeah.
maybe that's why you got such a good smile, Chase.
I mean, it really is.
Right.
It really is, because we do have a heavy teeth business family, because my other uncle is a dentist, and
it's all contained in the family.
It's all teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. And I know, like in other interviews that you've spoken about, your kind of inflection point once you started to, like you mentioned previously, get into, punk and skateboarding. And, I know the Punkorama comps were huge in your life, as they were in mine as well. Something I find interesting about those, a lot of the comp life that, people like us were living in, where it's like, yeah, you had your bands that were really instrumental in, kind of your first tier bands, whatever, your Offsprings and stuff like that. But then, or your Bad Religions. But then once you kind of like went one level deeper, either on those comps or obviously started to buy the catalog of, those particular record labels, what were kind of the weirdo bands that, I guess were second tier for you that you started to get attracted to?
Ooh, good question. I think one of the not the A-list bands on the, I think they were Epitaph. I remember 10-Foot Pole.
Oh, hell yeah.
I really like that band, but they're not Pennywise, and they're not NoFX or whatever, but they're not the top tier, but I really like that band for some reason. And I'm trying to think, because my cousin, who do you say that you're 40?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that he's like right around your age, if not your age, but he's the one that got me into a lot of this stuff. So he was already into skateboarding and into punk, and I got a bunch of hand-me-downs from him, and he's your age. So he was like really into Bad Religion, Good Riddance, Propaganda, and then mostly all like the Epitaph and Fat Records stuff. But he also liked some hardcore like Victory Records sort of stuff, and I remember like hearing Turmoil from him, and Earth Crisis and Snapcase. But I'm trying to think, as far as there was also kind of like the weird contingent that like the Christian punk sort of world.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So like MXPX was like a really big band for me. And I think that they were just kind of like lumped in with a lot of that stuff, at least for kids my age.
Sure.
But I think there was a little bit of influence from my parents, whether it was like actively, or for me, it was just like, oh, this is a little bit safer for me. Like my parents won't be as mad if I'm listening to like this more, I guess you say, wholesome punk.
Yeah.
Because they're already not really down for it. But I'm like, hey, this is actually, we can go to the Christian bookstore and I can buy this like Goaty Hook or
right.
like MXPX CD. And then my parents would be like, oh, we're at the Christian bookstore. Like, how bad could it be?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, you can buy this. So MXPX was like one of the first punk shows that I went to. And
that's great. No, I honestly love that story, just because it is, when you're navigating your musical taste and then, the quote unquote oppressive nature of your parents, it's difficult to be able to like you want them to, for lack of a better term, kind of, approve of what you're listening to, like, i.e. be permissive, for the music that you're listening to. So you're like, hey, here's the lyrics, and like, trust me, this is okay. And so like, I totally get that feeling of just like, this is like, I promise, like, this is totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the easier, softer way,
Yeah.
I would say in a way like more accessible for your parents. Like a really good example is that there was this church that was in Mesa. It's kind of far east from where I lived, but there was a church that this is probably in like 98 or 99.
Mm-hmm.
I was first starting getting into punk and skateboarding, but there was a church that on Wednesdays or Thursday nights, they would have a skate night. So in the parking lot, they would set up like a couple ramps and just like a pretty simple skate park, I guess you could say. But they would, let people come and skate, and they would be playing music. They would be playing like MXPX or whatever Christian punk was going on at the time, Squad 5-0. And it was the perfect thing because my parents were already pretty resistant to both like skateboarding culture and punk. So it was like, hey, I can go do both of these things, but it's at a church. So it's,
you got to let me do this.
Yeah.
Right?
They'd be like, okay, yeah, we'll go and drop you off. So it was a good way for me to almost like sneak those two things that I was getting into under the radar,
Band merch is incredibly important to my life, and it should be important to your life as well. And Rockabilia.com is the place where you need to go. And then plus, you use this code PC100words. That gets you 15% off your order, and you will love me for this. Trust me. You will dive into their website. You will find so many things that you want to buy and be like, you know what? I just saved thousands of dollars because of this promo code, because I am spending my entire paycheck and the next paycheck and the next paycheck after that. But all joking aside, their stuff is high quality. They deliver it fast to you. It's all officially licensed. So none of this bad bootleg stuff where bands aren't getting paid. Not how Rockabilia rolls. So please go to rockabilia.com. Type into that search bar some of your favorite bands, and boom, you will have a world of awesomeness. And then you'll have your whole closet outfitted with the latest and greatest, or even some gems that you might be able to find in there that may be dead stock that they just randomly have on their shelves. But rockabilia.com, PC 100 words, that gets you 15% off your order, and be happy with what you are wearing.
The holidays are descending upon us. Everyone is running around like crazy people trying to get their shopping done. Let me just solve that problem for you. No one is ever going to say no to this gift, and this gift is the Raycon wireless earbuds, headphones, or speakers. I love all of these products unequivocally. I use them every single day. And what makes them even cooler? They have 54 hours of battery life. They have a very comfortable fit. They will not fall out. I love them so much. They also have these rad holiday bundles. My personal favorite is the Audio Lover, which includes the everyday earbuds and the everyday headphones. So please, right now, go to buyraycon.com/Ray and use the code EARLYBF to get 20% off site-wide. That's 20% off of any Raycon product, which seriously never happens. Or you can save even bigger and get 30% off of Raycon's exclusive holiday bundles. That Audio Lover thing I was telling you about, do that. That's code EARLYBF at buyraycon.com/Ray for 20% off your Raycon purchase. Buyraycon.com/Ray and solve all of your holiday gift giving problems for your dad, your mom, your brother, sister. I don't care who, put it in their stocking. They will love you. Buyraycon.com/Ray, code EARLYBF. I love dogs so much. That's why I'm incredibly excited to welcome Embark on as a sponsor. They are a dog DNA testing kit, and what makes them cool is they scan for 215 genetic health risks across 350 breeds. And I want to give you $60 off and free shipping. So go to embarkvet.com, use the promo code RAY, and it unlocks that offer. And it also unlocks so many cool things that you can find out about your pup. And it's super easy. You get a little test tube with a Q-tip, you put it in the pup's mouth, send it back to Embark. They email you all of these results. It's very fast, easy, and I love doing it. 72% of pup parents are puzzled when it comes to their dog's breed. It's time to end these guessing games. This holiday season, give the dog lover in your life something they won't expect, the chance to decode their dog. It's the perfect time to shop for an Embark dog DNA test. Right now, Embark has a limited time offer on their breed and health kit and purebred kit for listeners of this show. Go to embarkvet.com to get free shipping and save $60 with promo code RAY. Visit embarkvet.com and use promo code RAY to save $60 today. Do it for your pup. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Wouldn't it be absolutely incredible if you got an instruction guide for life, where you're going through some relationship issues or drama at work or whatever challenging situation that is presented to you? You got a little pamphlet that helped you walk through that. What's awesome about therapy is that it kind of is. You're able to speak to a third person, talk about the issues you're having, and they can maybe offer some solutions for you that you can get unstuck. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people and counting with licensed therapists, 100% online. So that means it is more convenient, more accessible, and more affordable. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with the therapist in less than 48 hours. If things are not vibing between you and the therapist, you can switch out to a new therapist at any time. You got no waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. It's an amazing service and I wholeheartedly endorse them. Learn more and save 10% off your first month when you sign up today at betterhelp.com/Ray. That's betterhelp.com/Ray. Get some therapy and get unstuck.
That's really what you have to do as a kid. Like, it's not like you showing them, a Dead Kennedy's record is going to get them stoked. Like, clearly they're going to be like, this is not for Chase. Like, we need to ban him from that immediately. Yeah, you got to take the path of less resistance for sure. And you strike me just, kind of whatever, judging you from afar. You strike me as a person that, is like friendly and affable, but isn't the sort of person that is like the quote unquote life of the party where you're like sucking the air out of the room being like, oh, here's Chase, like, the loudmouth or whatever. Has that kind of always, like, first of all, am I accurate in that description? And second of all, is that kind of, what you kind of always have navigated the world with?
I think so. I would like to think so.
Sure. You hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like, I think it comes back to the way that I was raised. Like I'm not a super loud, like opinionated person. But it is always something that I've just been able to, get along with everybody, there's definitely a part of me where when I was younger, I remember whether it was my cousin and his friends or just like older people, I was oftentimes like the younger kid. And I was also a really small kid. And I was hanging out with older people and they either thought I was really funny or I was kind of like the crazy kid. I kind of had to like make up for being younger and smaller by doing crazy things. Mm-hmm. So whether it was like jumping off the roof naked into the pool or whatever it was, there was definitely always kind of like an urge to perform, I guess. Or even if it was just to make people laugh, that was always something that was like ingrained in me when I was from like a smaller, much younger kid. Mm-hmm. And then say like in junior high or high school, where a lot of my friends that I played music with, or that we were into like more alternative or like underground. Had more underground interests, whether it was music or whatever it may be. A lot of my friends would get bullied by other people at school. They would like, what's up, you emo? Like what's, right. Like pretty classic, like jock versus punk stuff or whatever. But this was like in the early 2000s. And so emo was like a really, that's how you dissed somebody, It's basically like calling someone a wimp, Yep. And, but my my friends would get bullied, but for somehow I always circumvented that. Like I somehow found a way to make these people that would probably were supposed to be bullying me to like laugh or even like be friendly with me. So I don't know, like it's interesting that you pick that up, but I don't know that. Yeah. It's, to answer your questions, it's pretty correct. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it honestly, like in, kind of understanding your musical journey and like the art that you've put out in the world, you strike me as a person too, that your music interests, you've always kind of painted with a really broad brush. It's like, and like, this is coming from a person who like worked at Century Media for like 10 years, where I noticed a very, very distinct difference between kids who are raised with like, just kind of the metal scene, and then versus kids who are raised obviously in like the punk and hardcore scene. Like, there's a distinct difference between the two, not saying one's better than the other, but I think that your willingness to, listen to a bunch of different styles of music is not something that is as permissive within the metal scene. And so I find it interesting that you've been able to kind of take all those influences, and then, even though, no one would ever be like, oh yeah, Gatecreeper kind of sounds like MXPX. Like you'd still be able to like usher that along in some weird way.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting because I would say for a couple of reasons, like a lot of my peers, or some of my peers, even some people in my band, around the time that we had spoken about, like the Punkorama compilation times or whatever, in the same timeline in metal, that was a lot of new metal, True. So for me, I took the punk route, and, there's a lot of people my age who might play in metal bands now, who during that time they were into new metal. So I think I took a little bit of a different route. And then also, I don't know if they're related, but a lot of people in metal, like, I find myself relating to and becoming friends more with people that I've met through music that are maybe more involved in like hardcore. Even though I've never identified as like a hardcore, quote unquote hardcore kid, I've always existed in the same world. And that might be from being from somewhere like Arizona or Phoenix, where there's not a whole lot of separation, like punk and hardcore and metal, it all kind of exists together. You're just into underground music and you go to all those shows, and are all those bands even play the same shows?
Yeah, it's true.
So, but there's something, I'm not sure what it is, whether it's because my entry point, or whether it's like the social realm, the personalities, but I feel like I get along more with people outside of metal, or like the on the fringes of metal, whatever you would describe as where I exist, whether I'm playing in a metal band, and it's not even a metal band where, we started out as something else and then we became a metal band. It's always been a metal band, but still, I find myself like towing the line as far as social circles. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. And I think that it's like, you have the quote unquote metal aesthetic, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I got a weirdo mustache. And like, I talk about, all of the Get Up Kids records, and I can go in intimate detail on all those. And like, a person that like their entry point is Carcass, like they're never going to listen to a Get Up Kids record and be like, oh dude, 4 Minute Mile's great. Like that just doesn't, and I think you're right. Like that, I guess that kind of like, especially within Arizona, and I've always, admired and noticed so many bands. Like, I'll use a random example. There's a band called Suicide Nation.
Oh yeah,
and like, and I know you, and they just always blew my mind because it was like, here's these guys who like play, absolutely unbelievable, melodic, Swedish death metal from Arizona, but like existed in the hardcore scene, and bands like Unrun, Groundwork, and like they all were never fully residing within one scene. And Arizona has always been, like you said, kind of known for that, just because the scene was proverbially so small that you weren't able to be like, okay, here's a solely hardcore show or here's a solely metal show. It's like everyone just kind of played together.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a huge thing, whether it's for me personally or for Gatecreeper. I try to explain that, because people, when we started out, we started playing, we played shows with metal bands or other death metal bands, but we also played hardcore shows, and, there's like a common, I think it's a more like modern issue that people have, whether it's like people that are strictly in the metal lane, they have a resistance towards anything that's like hardcore related.
Sure.
So we've run into a very common and I think very lazy dismissal that people are like, oh, Gatecreeper are just hardcore guys trying to play metal, or like the classic, oh, these guys just heard Obituary yesterday and they decided to start a death metal band, which is not only untrue, but it's very untrue in a way that it's like they obviously don't know the history of the band. They don't really know. It's not based on any reality. It's just a very lazy dismissal that I think people use a lot now.
I agree. I mean, especially with, not comparing you guys, but looking at a band like Deaf Heaven, it's like you could not, get a more divisive band, like especially once they started to, first rise. And, the same thing can be applied towards you guys, where it's like, putting out records on Relapse and then also putting out, your recent record on Closed Casket. It's like, who arguably would be, most metalheads would be like, oh, that's just some hardcore label or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it becomes, like you said, dismissive to where if you actually listened to the music, removing any baggage you have, you would like the record.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just, it's like a really cheap, it's just a lazy dismissal, and, use it like the word hardcore in context of like metal or whatever. Like a lot of people see it as like a dirty word,
Sure.
Or like, oh, they're just hardcore kids, which, like I said earlier, that's not true. So, I have pretty thick skin, and I can, if people don't like my band, that's totally fine, but that sort of stuff always kind of annoys me, just because I want to be like, okay, here's the truth. This is not true, but I'm not going to waste my breath doing that. But maybe some people metal purists get turned off when I, like you said, talk about Get Up Kids or Jimmy Eat World or whatever. But it makes me feel good that there's people like you who have heard that and are like, oh, that's cool. So
yeah,
there's probably people on both sides that either hate that or love that. Yeah,
no, it's true. What was your, I guess, like as you were going through school and, you were completely immersed within, all of the independent music that you were shoving in your head. Was there ever kind of like a life path in regards to, okay, I'm going to grow up and, like be in the teeth business, or is it just like, I'm just kind of, wandering around?
I mean, as far as career wise, I never really had much of a path. I mean, it sounds corny, but like I always wanted to play in a band. I always had the rock star dreams. But that's not something that you can like tell your parents and they are very stoked about. There was maybe a time when I was like early 20s, and I was in community college, and I wanted to teach elementary school.
Okay.
Because I've always had a way with kids, like kids like me. I like kids. It's just because I have a big extended family. So like I have a bunch of younger cousins, and now I have nephews and nieces. And I thought that would be, I guess it wasn't even something that I was like really passionate about. It was more of like, oh, I guess I got to figure something out to do, you know?
Right.
It was like a default, but that kind of, that went away, and I'm kind of glad. But, and also as far as just like a life path, I think that, if you've ever heard me talk about things, and you probably know as well, but like drugs are a big part of my story. So I think that I got into that very young, and that just got in the way of anything that could have been, like help me, have any sort of direction, that became my direction. And then I was just like coasting through life and just trying to get by,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. That was going to lead into my, next year. Your descriptions of your experiences with your battle with addiction, and your because you've been sober now for what, like 8 years or so. I say like I don't know, because I know exactly, because I've shared it.
Yeah.
Around 7.5 years now. But I'm going to guess that you are probably, now that you have distance from it, you probably attribute most of your battles with, drug use, and like, not just recreational drug use, like really dark drug use, where, were you actually living on the streets, or was that kind of hyperbole?
I would say that I was homeless, but I never had to live on the streets. It was more kind of like a couch surfing homeless situation.
Sure. Which is still obviously not ideal. I just was, I wasn't trying to be like, oh, dude, you weren't actually homeless, Chase. You didn't really live.
You never slept in the park.
Totally. But I'm going to guess, like you said, you really leaned into the fact that you were trying to rebel and, be anti-authoritarian against everything that you had been kind of, brought up with. I'm sure as you were going through it, you weren't able to articulate that, but do you think a lot of it stems from that?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Like I talked about before, it was like, it started as, not being able to go to a birthday party. And then it started with other things where I was told not to do something, and I did it, and I enjoyed it. And then it snowballs, and it became really dark, whether it's like, if you remember, for people of our generation, DARE. By that time, here's this teacher or like a policeman or something telling me about drugs and saying, don't do this, this is bad. And in my sort of sick reasoning, or kind of like exaggerated, defiant, state, I was like, they're telling me to do this, I want to do this immediately. Like, not only am I not scared, I'm like excited to do this now, because I've been told not to do it. Based on historically, everything that I've been told not to do has been enjoyable or fun. So it kind of got this like way of thinking that like my parents or religion or teachers or cops, they're just telling me not to do these things because they don't want me to have fun, which is like, for a kid, that's like a very dangerous way of thinking.
Sure.
And then I think also what we touched on earlier is like me hanging out with older people, and like always being like the kind of like crazy entertaining kid.
Right.
That it had that, I was pretty fearless. So when it came to drugs and like a lot of things where, because people asked me like, I started doing drugs when I was probably like 13, and I think I did heroin for the first time when I was 16. And I was actually telling a friend about like, my first experiences, and they're like, how did you get that? Like, who gave that to you? Like, weren't you scared? Like, but I wasn't at all. And that was just my outlook. But I think that most normal people are scared of that stuff for a reason. But I was like the opposite. I was like excited.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, also probably curious, because you're like, hey, it's right. This like forbidden fruit, and it's right here. It's like, well, how bad can it be, or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like the, this maybe sounds like a very gross, oversimplified question, but like, did you like the feeling of getting high? I mean, I know that there is, sort of the visceral pleasure of it. But, did it just kind of obviously become habitual for you, and the feeling of, I guess, goodness that you got out of it became less and less over time?
Yeah. A lot of times in recovery and anything like that, you try to get down to like the reasoning, or, what was it that you were trying to escape from? I was, I'm fortunate enough that I didn't really have too much childhood trauma or anything like that, because a lot of people do, like a lot of people are like, this happened to me and this is what I was trying to escape. But for me, I didn't really have that. Like there wasn't, like not even something as pretty minimal as like a divorce or anything like that. That was just like, wasn't something that I had to deal with. But I think that I was just bored, I wanted to escape just being bored. Like I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to just, pretty boring suburban life. And so, yeah, I can't attribute my, drug use or substance abuse or getting high on any sort of real escapism, as far as escaping some sort of trauma or anything like that. But, it's just going to be chalked up to that. I liked getting high. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And, because you were doing this also in conjunction with you, starting to play in some of your, your first bands and, getting the idea of playing shows and stuff like that. What was actually your first like proverbial band where you actually like played a show?
It was a band that I played in. I played drums in.
Okay.
And it was just me and some kids from my junior high, just playing cover songs, really.
Oh, nice. What covers did you do?
We did the Ataris, San Dimas High School Football Rules.
Great song.
We did Green Day, Brain Stew. Like it was all just the songs that I first learned how to play on guitar. So I think we might have done Bro Hymn.
Nice.
We did a couple Blink-182 songs. And maybe,
but nothing original.
No, I think we wrote like one original song or something, but also an important part that we were doing instrumental covers of these songs.
That's so good. No one's singing, just killing it on instrumental.
Yeah, exactly. Just very rudimentary versions of these songs. And so I played drums, and then I played bass in a band, and I was kind of like learned how to play all the instruments all at once.
And why is that? Because usually, kids get kind of attracted to one instrument or the other, but you are a Renaissance man. So like, did you just do that out of function?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it was like I had first learned how to play guitar, like just learned enough how to play what I was listening to, like downloading MXPX tabs or like Blink-182 songs, where those songs and Green Day songs, like it's pretty good stuff to be able to learn, to learn how to play guitar, because it's so easy to play.
Sure.
So, I learned how to play those songs. And then I think for this first band that I've been describing, it was like, hey, I learned how to play these songs. I'm going to teach them or play them with this kid who has a guitar and plays guitar, and his brother has a drum set. So we're going to go in his room, and you're going to play guitar and I'm going to play the drums. It was just that simple,
Right. Did the band have a name?
I think we went by the name Down by One.
The holidays are descending upon us. Everyone is running around like crazy people trying to get their shopping done. Let me just solve that problem for you. No one is ever going to say no to this gift. And this gift is the Raycon wireless earbuds, headphones, or speakers. I love all of these products unequivocally. I use them every single day. And what makes them even cooler? They have 54 hours of battery life. They have a very comfortable fit. They will not fall out. I love them so much. They also have these rad holiday bundles. My personal favorite is the Audio Lover, which includes the everyday earbuds and the everyday headphones. So please, right now, go to buyraycon.com/Ray and use the code EARLYBF to get 20% off site-wide. That's 20% off of any Raycon product, which seriously never happens. Or you can save even bigger and get 30% off of Raycon's exclusive holiday bundles. That audio lover thing I was telling you about, do that. That's code EARLYBF at buyraycon.com/Ray for 20% off your Raycon purchase. Buyraycon.com/Ray and solve all of your holiday gift giving problems for your dad, your mom, your brother, sister. I don't care who, put it in their stocking. They will love you. Buyraycon.com/Ray, code EARLYBF. I love dogs so much. That's why I am incredibly excited to welcome Embark on as a sponsor. They are a dog DNA testing kit, and what makes them cool is they scan for 215 genetic health risks across 350 breeds. And I want to give you $60 off and free shipping. So go to embarkvet.com, use the promo code RAY, and it unlocks that offer. And it also unlocks so many cool things that you can find out about your pup. And it's super easy. You get a little test tube with a Q-tip, you put it in the pup's mouth, send it back to Embark. They email you all of these results. It's very fast, easy, and I love doing it. 72% of pup parents are puzzled when it comes to their dog's breed. It's time to end these guessing games. This holiday season, give the dog lover in your life something they won't expect, the chance to decode their dog. It's the perfect time to shop for an Embark dog DNA test. Right now, Embark has a limited time offer on their breed and health kit and purebred kit for listeners of this show. Go to embarkvet.com to get free shipping and save $60 with promo code RAY. Visit embarkvet.com and use promo code RAY to save $60 today. Do it for your pup. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Wouldn't it be absolutely incredible if you got an instruction guide for life, where you're going through some relationship issues or drama at work or whatever challenging situation that is presented to you? You got a little pamphlet that helped you walk through that. What's awesome about therapy is that it kind of is. You're able to speak to a third person, talk about the issues you're having, and they can maybe offer some solutions for you that you can get unstuck. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people and counting with licensed therapists, 100% online. So that means it is more convenient, more accessible, and more affordable. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with the therapist in less than 48 hours. If things are not vibing between you and the therapist, you can switch out to a new therapist at any time. You got no waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. It's an amazing service and I wholeheartedly endorse them. Learn more and save 10% off your first month when you sign up today at betterhelp.com/Ray. That's betterhelp.com/Ray. Get some therapy and get unstuck.
That's really good, actually.
I'm sure that there's like 500 bands called Down by One, but
sure. No, I mean, yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm sure there's 500 local bands, but yeah. I like that. So, and when you started to, I guess for lack of a better term, like your more like serious band where you actually started to, play shows out of town and, kind of like have the first taste of what it's like to be in a quote unquote professional band. Was that like more in the like Spirit Adrift days or like what would you kind of place that?
Gatecreeper for sure.
Okay. Got it.
Like I played in a band when I was, from my first like metal band, I guess, when I was like 18 to probably 22 or so. And we played a lot of shows. Like we kind of did a lot of like opening shows or, the local support on a lot of shows. We never played like out of town really.
Okay. Played the Rebel Lounge a lot.
Yeah. I mean, well, at that time it used to be called the Mason Jar.
Yes, that's true.
But
that's
actually, I think during this era, it might have been closed for a lot of it because that building was closed down for a long time. But there was like the Modified,
Yep.
And there's a place called the Fix. The Nile was closed during this time, and there was a couple other like random DIY spots, like practice spaces that would have shows. But Gatecreeper is the first band that I toured with. And that was also like, I started Gatecreeper after I got sober. So I was actually never even, touring, or I'm sure that there's a connection there, but I wasn't able to really do anything or play at a professional level until after I got sober.
Sure. Yeah. I would definitely say there's probably a connection there.
Yeah.
And did you, as you started to experience kind of the touring life and, like whatever, selling merch and like all the trappings of what a, quote unquote professional band would look like, did you enjoy tour? Did you enjoy the business aspects of the band? Like, were there things that were different than what you expected?
I mean, I enjoy the business stuff for sure. Like I was, we just recently got a manager, but like I've been the manager for the band in pretty much the whole time. And, again, being very open, I learned business by selling drugs. Like it's, the business model of selling drugs and selling t-shirts on tour is not really that much different,
I was gonna that's really interesting to me, just because I get what you're saying. Like the basic principles of, hey, I'm showing up at a place and like you gotta trade this product for this money or whatever. But you really do, like, it is kind of almost a 1-to-1 correlation, you would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I bought this product for this amount and I'm going to break it up into smaller amounts and I'm going to sell it for way more than I bought it for. And then when it's out, I got to re-up. I got to get more of this product in time so that there's not a lapse in sales. Like it's all the same. I mean, it's not really that much different. And so I kind of eased into that, and I had some experience, I guess you could say.
Right. The one thing I wanted to pull out there is the idea that kind of what we were going back to originally, where it's like, people are, attracted to others' art based off of, like, oh, I like that person, or like that person seems trustworthy or whatever. Like, did you find that impacting, I guess, your, business from the drug perspective, or it was like, oh, Chase seems like a good dude, like, so, we can get our score off of him. Like, was that? I'm kind of joking, but at the same time, like it seems like that would maybe influence it a little bit, or no?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I was definitely way more like, just by nature, like a little bit sketchier, when I was
sure.
Just, that's just part of the game. But I do think that when I did use my my junkie hustle for good when I started the band, which I've talked about before, not only like the business equivalents aside, but, when I was doing drugs and I was just very active in drug use, that's your whole life. And that's all you're like obsessed with it. Whether you want to be or not, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, how am I going to get drugs? How am I going to get money? Like, what am I going to do? Like, do I have to commit any crimes today? Like, who do I need to, like, what do I need to do? Yeah. Right. It's like, it's always running. So I kind of used that energy that I had been using for, self-destructive purposes. Once I got sober and I started the band, I kind of kept that energy and I was just translated it into doing something with our band, like every day, just, whether it's shirt designs or like sending emails to like some blog to like post our record or whatever it was. I used that same energy. And then also what we talked about before, aside from the straight business stuff, but a lot of it, as for, I guess, management roles of a band, is a lot of it's like networking and personal relationships with people. And that's, we talked about, that's something that I've always leaned into and I've always, been able to do with ease. So I think that that's come into the picture as well, because it's something that I genuinely enjoy, and it's definitely positively affected the band and what we've been able to do, just based on like being somebody that people like, or people that, being someone that, or a band that people want to give like a good opportunity to.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've never heard anybody be able to articulate that that through line, like, because usually the common expression that I see when people, are doing band stuff at an early age, and like, you're learning like accounting principles and like all these things that you don't actually know that you're learning, but the kind of reverse engineering of what it is after a person goes through, recovery, it's like usually there's one of two paths. Like they get obsessed with, religion, or they get obsessed with like, self-care, like all of a sudden being like, a really muscular human being or whatever. But like for you to be able to be like, hey, I'm going to, apply the same principles I learned here into an independent band. Like that's just, I don't know. To me, it's genius, but it's something that I haven't heard anybody else articulate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granted, throughout this whole thing, even when I was doing drugs, I was still obsessed with music. You know, I was still obsessed with music, downloading music, like an insatiable hunger for finding new music. So I would definitely use the term reverse engineering on stuff like that, like where I had this junky hustle or whatever. So when Gatecreeper first started, I remember reverse engineering, like, how do I find out about new music? Oh, because at the time it was kind of at the tail end of like the golden era of downloading like MediaFire, download blogs. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is how I find new music. So I'm just gonna email all these people or whatever it was, like smaller blogs, or even like Cult Nation at the time was like, a place where I found new music or other people found new music. And I just reverse engineered that and just started sending it to all the places that I would find new music.
Right. Yeah. You would be like, I can take this knowledge of things that I've already been craving myself and then, try to inject my band in there.
Yeah. And that's the same thing where people, whether it's local bands or whatever, like, hey, I'm trying to find somebody, a label to put out my record or something like that. And for me, it's just very simple. Like, okay, well, look at the records that you like and look who put out that record and find out how to contact them, or look at, maybe not shoot for the stars and send it to, like a huge label, but like see another smaller band and look on the back of their record and see who put it out. If it's a smaller label, and just like, it's probably pretty easy just to send them an email, so that sort of stuff is, just kind of a no-brainer for me, but I guess I understand that like that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah, sure. And kind of on that same line, the idea of applying yourself from the, business perspective, and like you said, dedicating a lot of your energy that, you had in your hustle for, the drug life you were living, how that clearly has also impacted your creativity as well, where it's like you're able to dedicate your resources towards kind of both of those things. Not everybody can kind of do that in that way, where it's like sometimes people just kind of stick to like, I'm the music writing person, or like I'm the business person, but you've been able to kind of, I guess, toe both lines. This maybe sounds simple, but like, how are you able to do that? Does it come maybe a little more naturally to you, or what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think it comes naturally, and also, it is a lot of work. But it sounds corny or really simple that, if you enjoy what you're doing, then it doesn't really seem like work, Sure. So looking back, like I've been working hard every day at things, but, in the moment, it doesn't feel like I'm working, whether it's just like talking to people from other bands or from, promoters or whatever it may be, or, working on shirt designs, or like working on whatever it is. Like I'm very hands-on with everything, which can be tiring for myself and maybe even tiring for other people that I work with because I'm so particular. And, if you look back, and definitely like in relationships that I've had, people were like, you're a workaholic, but it doesn't seem like I'm working, even though I am working pretty much 24/7, but it's just because I like it and I enjoy doing it. So, maybe some people really like to write music, but they don't really care for like the business side, or maybe people are really talented on the business side, but they're not able to, write music. But there's definitely people that can do both. And in my own case, I was able to do both for a long time. It definitely, one or the other starts to, it becomes harder and harder to do both. So that's why, early last year, we finally got a manager, because it became like, just doing all the behind the scenes stuff for the band became more than a full-time job for me, because I definitely bite off more than I can chew. Because I want to do, whether it's because I'm like a, control freak, or which I don't think that I am. I'm just very particular. So I'm just like, I would rather do this myself.
Sure.
Whether it's not trusting someone to do it the way that I want to, or whatever it is, but I'm just like, I'm going to do all this myself, whether it's like curating, as far as the visual aspect of the band, and then the music. And then I was even like, all right, I'm going to tour manage our band when we're on tour. And eventually I'm like, I can't do all of this, because if I'm putting all my energy, and I'm just like spending, 40 hours a week plus, or 80 hours a week doing all this behind the scenes stuff, then I don't really have the energy or like juices left to write a new song or whatever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, hearing you kind of lay this all out, to me, it definitely indicates like you seem like a curious dude. So not only are you wanting to do these things because, like you were talking about, whatever, some element of control over them, but then you're also curious about how things like work, very similar to, what you were like when you were learning instruments, where it's like, okay, drums, guitar, like you're just going to kind of build off of it. And so I think there's a little bit of that in there too, not playing armchair psychologist here, but yeah.
No, you're totally right. Like I am, and that plays into some of it too, as to why I stay so active in it, because I am interested. Like I am interested in like the behind the scenes, like music business stuff. I am interested, and I've worked in, say, like the promotion side of live music, and all that stuff. I guess it would seem like a lot more work if I wasn't genuinely interested in it,
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree. The last thing I want to hit on was, it kind of harkens back to what we were talking at the very top, where, the presentation of yourself, as far as, you being as active as you are on social media, and just, sharing who you are as a human. Clearly there's a place for humor in metal. But for the most part, it's pretty devoid of it, like there's a lot of, there definitely, like you said, there's a lot of self-serious, like you're not going to be self-aware about the way, like, I just always think about people that, put on a stage voice,
Yeah.
And like just that notion definitely exists within metal, where it doesn't exist in a lot of other, music scenes, especially, punk and hardcore and stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you like, do people give you, I guess, like more direct negative feedback in regards to like, oh, like you seem like such a tool, Chase? I mean, like, of course people are going to, say what they want to on social media, but, like, does it, do you get kind of like hear that feedback, or is it just one of those things where you're like, oh, I hear it, but obviously I'm not going to change that?
Well, as far as like the humor sort of stuff, like I've very purposefully separate my own personal stuff from the band. Like I'll definitely, I'm within whatever stupid stuff that I'm doing on social media. Like I'm definitely plugging my band and promoting my band, but the opposite side of that, like from the band social media, or whatever, it's like, it's pretty dry,
Sure.
So I think, because personally, everyone in the band, like we're all like funny people, like we're always joking or whatever, but I don't want it to be, that's us personally, like that's who we are. But as far as a band, like I don't want to be like a joke band, like I don't want to be like a meme band. So I think it's important to find a balance, whether it's like on our own personal, like I'm joking all the time, and I'm whatever, I'm acting the fool on my own social media. But from like a band perspective, not only because I think that it's a little unfair to everybody else in the band if I was like spouting off my own personal opinions or jokes through the band social media. But I just don't think that that's like a good look personally.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't really get a lot of feedback. Like, I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that don't like me just because they think I'm an idiot or whatever it is, you know, like, and like I said earlier, you know, like kind of like the false humility thing. Like maybe people think that I'm like arrogant or something, which it kind of, that's something that I've always like kind of worried about, I guess, because I think that part of my humor, if people don't understand it, they could think that I'm like arrogant. But really it's like an ironic sort of humor. And so I guess to answer your question, I don't get a whole lot of direct feedback. There's definitely, as far as social media stuff and like putting your own personal life out there, it's something you have to get used to, is like the balance of what I put out there of my personal life and what I actually keep to my personal life. Cause you don't want to be the person that's like puts your whole entire life on blast for everybody. But also, you know, you want to put some people, you know, give people something that they can relate to, or like, you know, for me, just like putting out there who I am as a person, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, I totally get that. And I think it's always tough when there is this notion, like, I want you to take what I do as far as the art, seriously, but then at the same time, like, you know, I am not so self-serious that I understand that, you know, like I'm just playing in a dumb band, like,
yeah,
let's calm down or whatever. Like,
yeah. And the social media thing, it's like, you know, at first say on tour and someone comes up and they're like, "Hey, Chase." At first it's kind of jarring. You're like, I don't know who you are. Like, why do you know my name? But of course, like if when I was younger, or even now, if I know of a band, even though I don't know them personally, like I might know who the singer is, like what their name is. I might read interviews with them, or maybe I'll follow them on social media. So at first I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's weird. I have to get used to this. And then as it goes on in time, you know, like I'm on an earlier tour of ours, and I'm at the merch table and someone comes up and they like bring me a Red Bull, or they asked me about my dog. They're like, "Oh, how's Bodie?" And at first it's kind of jarring again, like, whoa, like, did I just get Nardward? But no,
right.
That's like something that I put out there. So I can't put this stuff out there and then think that it's weird that people actually are absorbing that information. So it's just finding a balance of like, you know, cause I am still like a private person, you know, like I want to have some sort of privacy or like my own personal life. So it's like finding the balance of, you know, putting out there, or like, I guess not like purposefully being entertaining just for entertainment's sake, but, you know, just like things that I think are funny. And like I said, I've always liked making people laugh.
Sure.
And joking around with my friends or whatever it may be. And, you know, they're definitely mutual beneficial. Like we started at the top, you know, like for the most part, you know, if someone likes you, then they'll hopefully like what you do as far as, creative output. Like, do you know Finn McKenty?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been following him for a long time, like since he did the Metal Inquisition blog.
Yep.
And then like Stuff You Will Hate and like, you know, like Sergeant D, like I've been following it for a long time. So I've always thought that he's had interesting take on things. And I was talking to him the other day, and he's the one that kind of brought that up of like, you know, if people like you and they're interested in you, then by default, they're going to be interested in what you know, your music or your art or whatever it is. So, I take that into account, and that may be, especially maybe of metal purists or like underground purists, they think that, it might be frowned upon to like, do your thing on social media and gain some sort of following. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to do like, I do this for a living now. I have been for a while. And if I want to continue to do that, if it means doing things that some people might think I'm lame for doing, that's fine, because, I don't have to work a normal job anymore. And that's, I'm willing to sacrifice the opinions of, some people thinking I'm lame. That's like something that I've come to accept,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're like, that's fine. Like, as long as I don't have to show up to a office and do the thing. Well, no one shows up to an office now, but you get the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to, like, I have a pretty strict, like a pretty sensitive barometer for things that I think are lame, like, or cringy or whatever. So I'm like, I'm not doing something that that isn't authentic, but there's definitely a point where for me, you want people to like you, you want to be accepted or like validated in whatever you do, just by human nature. And I think I'm even more on the like more sensitive side, but, so it took me having to just kind of accept things and be like, hey, not everybody's going to like me. Or like, if someone, if these people think that I'm like getting caught up on like what everybody thinks about me, like what do these people, my peers, think about me doing this? And it took a while for me to just kind of get over that, like, whatever, like, you can't please everybody. I'm just going to be authentic and like be who I am. And if people are receptive to that, then cool. If they're not, whatever, like, I'm not going to let it eat my lunch, like, I'm not going to let it rule how I interact online or whatever it is, like, I've just kind of resigned myself to doing what I think is cool, what I think is funny. And hopefully people, hopefully we're on the same page with a lot of people. And if not, cool. If you don't like my band, that's cool. If you don't like me, if you think that I'm an idiot, that's cool too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's just like, well, you're, there's plenty of other bands you can get into. So you're not for me, or I'm not for you. That's why.
Yeah. And I try, like I said before, like, I'm not a super opinionated person. That's something that I think that can get you in trouble online. Is, being a little too opinionated or having some hot takes or whatever. Like, for instance, one time I said something about nu metal, like I didn't like nu metal, and people got really upset. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's one of the few times that I've voiced a specific opinion, and people, had very strong opinions otherwise. So, it's just, I try to avoid opinions because that'll give you that'll give people a reason not to like you, more so than to people like, like if you voice some sort of opinion, whether it's an unpopular opinion or not, if people agree with you, it's just whatever. But if people don't agree with you, that's like a big issue,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's what you're going to get in, quote unquote trouble, just because it's like, oh man, we're going to, this is going to be litigated 15 times over, and I didn't really mean it this way or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. Well, Chase, thanks for hanging out, dude. I really appreciate this. And, I appreciate letting me pick your brain on all of these random things that you probably haven't been asked before in some capacity.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Okay, that was that. And thank you very much, Chase, for coming to hang out on the show. And it was a great conversation. I'm actually going to have him on my Instagram Live soon. So pay attention to that once that comes out. You can just follow me at XPurposeX on Instagram. We're talking about records this weekend, so that's a fun one. Next week, I have Mike Reed from the almighty band called Small Brown Bike, who, broke up in, 2005 or so, got back together, is putting out music occasionally, play some shows occasionally, but they're just an amazing band. I saw them, I don't know, a handful of times in the early 2000s, the early aughts. And I love them so much. And so out of the blue, I just randomly emailed the singer, Mike Reed, and he was like, oh yeah, let's do this. So that's what we got. And that's what's happening next week. So until then, please be safe, everybody.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
The pandemic has been hard on all our kids. New studies show more than 1 in 3 children who started school in the pandemic now need intensive reading help. That's right. Millions of kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade in the United States cannot read at grade level. Here's the good news. Your child can be reading in just 30 days, guaranteed, with Hooked on Phonics. Even if your child has been struggling, Hooked on Phonics will teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. And right now, you can get started for just $1. Text the word GRADE to 323232 right now. Hooked on Phonics is highly effective and incredibly fun, and everything can be done right from home and in less than 20 minutes a day. For more than 30 years, Hooked on Phonics has been the proven learn-to-read program that kids love to use. Text GRADE to 323232 and teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. Text GRADE to 323232 right now and get started for just $1. Text GRADE to 323232 now. Text GRADE to 323232.
The world of chocolate has been turned upside down.
A very unusual situation.
You saw the stacks of cash in our office.
Chocolate comes from the cacao tree, and recently, varieties of cacao thought to have been lost centuries ago were rediscovered in the Amazon.
There is no chocolate on Earth like this.
Now some chocolate makers are racing deep into the jungle to find the next game-changing chocolate, and I'm coming along.
Okay, that was a very large crocodile.
Listen to Obsessions, Wild Chocolate on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.